The first thing I want you to do is read the question on your own. So I'm going to ask you to please pause the video and read the question. Now that you've read the question, you can see that we are asked to compare the speed of the two different elevators, and we are going to graph their speeds, their rates, on a graph, one line for each building. So I'm going to start by looking at the first building mentioned, which is the Empire State Building. It says that it travels nonstop at a rate of 1,400 feet per minute. But if you notice on the graph, our time is not measured in minutes, it's measured in seconds. So we need to do a little bit of work with that rate of 1,000 feet per minute and get it in terms of seconds. We know that 1 minute is the same thing as 60 seconds. So we could look at the graph and say, okay, it must travel 1,400 feet in 60 seconds. Can I graph that? But if you look at the x-axis on the graph, our time in seconds, it doesn't go up to 60 seconds. It only goes up to 50. So what if we maybe just cut it in half? Could we figure out how far the elevator would travel in half of that 60 seconds, which would be 30 seconds? Well, if it travels 1,400 feet in the 60 seconds, and we want to cut that in half, 1,400 feet in 60 seconds, well, how far would that be in 30 seconds? Well, if I cut the top in half, then that's going to give me the answer. 1,400 feet cut in half, well, that's 700 feet. So it must travel 700 feet in 30 seconds. I can graph that. I can put a point on the graph at a time of 30 seconds up to 700 feet and put a dot there. I know that at 0 seconds, the elevator was at 0 feet, so it's going to go through my origin. So now I can take my shapes function on my Cami, catch a line, and I could draw a line. I kind of want that to be purple, so let's change the color there. Let's go back to the shapes, go back to the purple, and I'm going to draw my line that goes through those 2 points. I want to make sure it goes through them, and then I'll release it. So there's my line for the Empire State Building. Now I want to do the same thing for the John Hancock Building, but the John Hancock Building says that it travels in this equation, y equals 30x. Well, y is the height, x is the number of seconds. So if y equals 30x, we could then pick a value for x. We could pick a certain number of seconds that it would be easy to graph. So for instance, what if it travels for 10 seconds? What if I change my x to a 10? So then I'd have to do 30 times 10 to find out how far it would travel. Okay, well then that's easy, that's 300. So after 10 seconds, the elevator in the John Hancock Center has traveled 300 feet. So I can go ahead and graph that as well. I know that again, at 0 seconds, it's traveled 0 feet, but at 10 seconds, it's traveled, let's say 300 feet. So I'm gonna put a dot there. And now I'm gonna draw a line to go through that. I'm gonna try to make sure that it goes through that point as well as I can. Looks like about there. So now I have the 2 lines, okay? I've got the New York City Empire State Building line in purple, and I have the Chicago John Hancock Center building line in the blue. So now we can look at that and decide which one travels at a faster rate. Remember that the steeper the line, the faster that elevator is moving, okay? The more distance it covers in that amount of time. Or we could just look at a specific spot. Let's say after 10 seconds, I can see that the purple line for the Empire State Building is just a little above 200 feet, but the blue line for the John Hancock Center elevator is higher than that. It's at 300 feet. So it's obviously traveled further in that 10 seconds. I could do that at any point. I could look at, let's say, in 20 seconds, and still the Empire State Building line has not gone as high as the line for the John Hancock Center. So the elevators are traveling at different speeds. The John Hancock Center elevator is traveling a further distance in that 20 seconds, so it is traveling at a faster rate. So now what I want you to do is try to figure out how you can explain that as you go to the last part of the question, okay? Which elevator travels at a faster rate? You should be able to get that answer. But now in your own words, I want you to explain how we came up with that answer.